think a lot of times people think athletes are dumb.
Because some of these individuals maybe aren't coaches, they'll look at this information and be like, where's the evidence? Where's the study?
I can sense a good shot and a bad shot.
These athletes start getting creative, and then they start doing things that no one has seen before.
I don't know how many people know or understand how much studying Tyson did.
What I'm doing now is I'm loading up his nervous system.
He said load it up with useless information.
Lean forward, pull it up, pull it as far as you possibly can.
Obviously, there's science to it, but it seems like the science, we're always like, that can't be right.
I bet you the EMG is going to be much different on the person that can activate that muscle group than the person who's like 5 years training and is still doing the same fucking movements because they're more biomechanically efficient. Pay attention to the one with experience, dog.
Yeah, I wanted
nice.
I wanted to dive into this today talking about, I think a lot of times people think athletes are dumb, the dumb jock type thing. And I think that some displays of physicality sometimes can be like brilliant, and they can be beautiful, and they can be kind of unreal. And we have a lot of examples today, I think, that will show maybe they're like, maybe it's not pure intelligence, but maybe it's something different. And when I think about some of the power lifters that I've run into over the years, and I think about some of these guys who they have a skill that is completely different than anything I've seen from other people. And one person that comes to mind is like Jeremy Avila. Like, what is that ability of his brain or his body to be able to explode so well on some of the lifts that he does? Like, what the hell is that? Obviously, he's very strong.
Yeah.
But a lot of powerlifters are very strong. And like someone like Kaylor Willem, like some of these guys come to mind where you're like, I've never seen anybody lift that amount of weight that fast. Or some of the athletic stuff that Jeremy Avila is able to do, the jumping. Same thing with Kenny that we have here at Super Training. These people are able to display these levels of athleticism that are like some next level stuff. And I think that sometimes when we think about people, we're just like, oh, the guy's genetically gifted or the guy has this or that. But some of the stuff we're going to get into today, we'll even show you examples of Jordan and Tyson and Bo Jackson and some of these guys just having a proficiency and like a feel that no one else in the world has. And some of this came to be because I saw these like old school tutorials of Michael Jordan explaining basketball. And I was like, whoa. I'm like, Michael Jordan is explaining how to play basketball to people. I'm like, this is crazy. You don't really usually see that, right? A lot of times it's just some like retired coach or some guy who's like awesome at 3-pointers showing people how to shoot or something like that. But this is the GOAT. This is like the greatest of all time. And in modern times, I have not really seen like necessarily LeBron, coaching. I'm sure he shares a lot with his teammates and all that kind of thing. But I just think it's fascinating the amount of knowledge some of these guys have and how smart they are and how they figure out stuff that is just completely different and unconventional.
Absolutely. I think also one thing is, especially when it comes to people building muscle or, whether it's getting stronger, there's a lot of strength athletes, really cool strength athletes who share some nuanced information on how they do things, like Jamal Browner explaining aspects of the sumo deadlift and even his hook grip or some of these other lifters. But I think some people, because some of these individuals maybe aren't coaches, right? They'll look at this information and be like, where's the evidence? Oh, where's the study? Yeah. To prove what you're that's why I do respect coaches and what they bring to the table, but there's aspects of things that a person just doesn't get if they haven't fucking done it. I don't care what book you've read. Like, I'm going to pay attention to some of the aspects of what this person who's doing the damn thing is saying, because they know nuanced things that some of these coaches cannot put forward. And I don't care if there's no paper to prove it. Like, there's literal proof right here. Now, we can't take that too far because there is a lot of bullshit within building muscle, and it's been shown. Like, a lot of athletes talk about some bullshit, but there's a lot of gold nuggets within what a lot of these skilled people are talking about.
Ed Cohen, one of the greatest coaches I've ever run into. Unbelievable. 900-pound deadlift, squatted over 1,000 pounds, benched nearly 600 pounds. He's one of the all-time great power lifters, and he just had a lot of nuanced stuff. I mean, he famously said, open up your taint when you're doing your squat. I never heard anybody say anything quite like that before. he had a lot of great references, and sometimes it helps to have something that's like funny or silly so people can kind of remember it. But in some of his illustration or some of the things he would communicate, because he's so high level and because he's built the way that he's built, he would sometimes say things that didn't apply to you. So sometimes you have to kind of go, oh, wait a second, I forgot that guy's 6'7".
And he has orangutan arms.
Yeah, or I forgot that, Ed Cohn is shorter in stature. He's like 5'4" or something, or 5'5". Sorry.
His arm go past his knees.
His arms his arms go past his knees. He's got long ass hands. So he was showing me like how to kind of open up on like a sumo deadlift, and he's like, choo, choo, and you're right there. And I'm like, I'm still like 2.5 feet from the bar.
Here's the bar.
So sometimes some of these people, like a Michael Phelps that we'll show later on. I mean, Michael Phelps is like one of the longest like wingspans in the history of mankind, and so he's going to have some advantages over some other athletes. But he's also a guy that said that he didn't miss swim practice for 5 years straight. So I think, it's easy to be like, oh, these guys are probably all on steroids.
Genetics.
Or, these guys are all on genetics. Or to think they're dumb and that they only spend time in the pool or on the mats or wherever it is. But I think some of it's some genius shit going on.
Where do you guys want to start?
Play the Jordan video since Mark mentioned it.
Michael Jordan.
Mikhail Jordan.
Is that how you pronounce it?
Yeah.
This whole time. Let's go.
Big ass hand.
MJ.
Right. Can you talk about your hand? What do you see when you look at this hand? If you would look at it, what do you see?
In terms of,
Its skill.
well, I have a wide thumb away from my first finger, which gives me the grip of grabbing the ball and being able to move the ball. And it's like having a paintbrush to a certain extent, being able to create. If you can move the ball and move your instrument to an extent that it's pretty different and very rare in this game. Dr. J did this. Dr. J had, if you ever notice Dr. J's hand, his thumb is so far away from this finger, which gives him a better grip and a wider span so that he can pick a ball up off the dribble and do anything that he wants to do with it. I don't know. I have very long fingers. I can sense a good shot and a bad shot. If it comes off these three fingers, I feel good about the shot. If it comes off these two, then my mechanics got screwed up somewhere.
I just weapon. Right. Can you
That's being able to narrow it down pretty good. Andrew, advantage or disadvantage with that thumb being that big for video games?
Well, so that hold on. If let's say it's a first person shooter, all right, and you have a controller
Controller keyboard though.
That's on. So this is where I'm getting at it. So like if you're on a PlayStation, the analog sticks are at the bottom, so maybe that might be easier for you to reach. If you're on Xbox, it's up top. You might be too long for
NBA
that controller.
Live, you can beat Jordan in NBA Live, yes or no?
Oh, absolutely.
Okay.
Because
fucking done.
But check this out though.
See you later, MJ.
You had to create him because he was never in any of the games. Do you know why?
Wasn't licensed, huh?
Because he was licensed under Warner Brothers, and they made like a Michael Jordan like Bugs Bunny video game. Where he's like a platform game. So because of that contract, he couldn't be in any other video game.
Damn,
it
wasn't in any of those
bullshit.
games?
Nope. You had to like you could go to create a player on NBA Live, and you would type in Michael Jordan number 23, and then like the rest would auto populate.
That's bullshit.
It's very much bullshit.
What do you think of this clip?
I think so if you think about a kid that's like watches this clip and really loves basketball, and then they start maybe that aspect of what he said about his fingers, if it comes off these two fingers, it's a good shot. If it comes off these, it's a bad shot. And that kid starts doing reps, and then they start to feel it. I mean, it takes a certain level of expertise to start thinking of things to that level of detail. But an athlete who's doing that game in, game out, and thinking about that can communicate that well. Some coaches definitely can, don't get me wrong. But when you have somebody who is in it, who is doing it, I think that's really fucking amazing. And I think another thing that probably we're going to be getting to is athletes have, at least I think really experienced athletes have a level of creativity to think outside the box when it comes to a lot of these things. You know, they don't always go by, okay, a coach can lead them in the right direction of concepts and things to think about. Then when the athlete starts letting themselves be creative with whether it's doing things in the gym, whether it's doing things with whatever your sport is, then they start doing things that people have never seen before. You know, even like John Jones has talked about just watching YouTube videos and copying it. And who was the guy on Joe Rogan's podcast recently? He's a black dude who said that he just watched a lot of, you know, movies as a kid, and he just copy these things, and he does those things in the ring, right? There's a level, I think, of just
the powerlifter we just had on recently who loves like Dragon Ball Z and all that kind of stuff, right?
Yeah, Baki. And he likes Dragon Ball Z, but yeah, Baki.
There
Exactly, right?
Anime, of course.
Yeah, anime. It's not cartoons, Mark. Don't disrespect anime like that. I can't have you doing that anymore.
It's powerful.
Animations.
But these athletes start getting creative, and then they start doing things that no one has seen before, right? So I think we should start really paying attention to them.
Did you guys ever, like, I guess we'll go with soccer. Were you ever told something, but you kind of had your own way to do it, but you were kind of discouraged from following what you thought would be best for you because coaches insisted that you do it this way?
I'm thankful I never wore shin guards.
So that's so funny. Like after we spoke, it was like, oh, okay, that makes sense. But when you first said that, I was like, what? Like, you know,
ow.
Like, oh, dude, my shins hurt for you.
They stopped hurting after a while.
Yeah, that's
my shins stopped hurting after a while.
It builds up that bone density, right?
You could kick the fuck out of my shins. I'm not going to feel it, you know, because I never wore shins. Because first off, I hated the way shin guards looked, and I thought they were uncomfortable, and I thought they stopped me from being able to do certain things I wanted to do on the field. So, yeah, I'd get kicked in the shins a lot, but after a while, I didn't feel pain in my shins anymore. And nowadays, my shins are really fucking dense.
I remember, you know, in football, like, you know, the coach would talk about, you know, very specific play. Like, here's the way we're going to run this play. And we had some really talented athletes on the team. And sometimes the play didn't go like as drawn up, and the coach would be pissed, even though we scored a touchdown. Because, you know, sometimes you got to do like unconventional stuff. And he's like, no, you're supposed to, you know, run it this way. And I understand what the coach's point was and why he wanted the play to be run a specific way, because you're setting up a lot of other stuff based off of that. And there's a bunch of reasons why you want to try to have some sort of plan or schedule. But as a player, you got to kind of take control of that. And ultimately, the coach isn't out there on the field. The coach is not out there, you know, making the tackles and making the throws and doing all the things. And so sometimes you got to just like pull stuff out of your ass. You know, you got to do things unconventionally sometimes.
I feel like, okay, for those of you all in the audience that love jiu-jitsu, rock with me here. For those of you that don't, try to rock with me here. But I think we should start trying to treat the gym kind of like how some of these athletes treat jiu-jitsu. Because there are certain athletes within the martial art, you know, there are teachers that people refer to as professors, right, who own schools and they teach things. But then there are these young athletes who are coming up, who they're learning what their professors are teaching them, but then they're doing these creative things with movements that have been there for a long time.
That's crazy, where people are like flipping as they're rolling and they're doing all kinds of crazy shit, it looks like.
But they get creative.
Yeah.
They do things outside of the box. They move outside of the box, and they create these movements that people have never seen done. And then it's named after them, or it's a version of that movement. But it's like you have this base level. Just like the gym, you have a base level of things that everybody talks about is great for strength: squat, bench, deadlift. Well, how about starting to do some of those things on your toes so that you start to strengthen your toes? How about all these things that people come and talk to us about? You know, these implements, there's some research behind how they can be beneficial, and there's some research behind some of these movements, but who says that you have to do them that way? We've learned that the more creative we get with it, the more that we can add to it with some of the things that we've heard from WEC and all these different people. We're building different levels of strength now, and we're doing things in a very unorthodox kind of way. So...
And it's when you learn some of the rules and you start to understand them, you're going to be able to break some of the rules once you have a decent understanding of them. And sometimes your coach or someone else is going to go, and they're going to go, okay, that was good. They're going to halfway be like, oh shit, like, you know, maybe you'll hurt yourself or maybe something crazy will happen. But if you can get it done, you can get it done. And I think it's important that we use some unconventional thought. We've seen so many players over the years. I think it's amazing. I've been a huge Bo Jackson fan forever. And some of the stuff that you've seen Bo Jackson do, some of it's like almost seems like a fable where you're like, oh, was some of that true? Like he jumped over a car, he jumped over this like ravine or whatever. Like there's a lot of crazy stories about him. But the stuff that they did capture, the stuff that you did see when he was playing 2 sports professionally, was completely amazing. The way he fucking ran up the wall, the way he did a kip up after an in the park home run without using his hands. Like, he just did some wild stuff. But what he said about this is that this was all stuff that he did as a kid. He said, everything I did as a pro, I did as a kid. He's like, I used to run up the side of my house all the time.
Oh, shit.
I mean,
rewind that.
Like how he got to the very top, like
Bruh.
like he had to stop, right? Like he could have kept going and just like, I'll cut it here.
It's pretty wild looking when they slow it down. You're like, holy shit, he actually was fucking running up the wall.
Dude.
And he basically just said, like, I've run into the wall before and I hurt my shoulder. So he didn't want to like just run into the wall normal. And he's like, I'm just going to athlete my way out of this.
I want you guys to imagine that you're wearing a cast on your hand and you're going through your whole day with this cast hand. Well, because your fingers don't move, your hand will start to become stiff, weak, and that'll work its way up your arm. That's the same thing that happens when you wear these damn shoes, okay? I'm sorry to curse, but it's frustrating because these shoes that have a narrow toe box, although they look nice and they're Nikes, narrow toe box so your toes can't move. They're not flat, so your foot is in this weird thing and it's not getting stronger. And they're not flexible, so they don't move and your foot just moves like this all day, which means your feet are getting weaker. That's why we partner with Vivo Barefoot Shoes. They have a bunch of shoes for the gym and casual shoes, but the thing about these shoes is that they are wide, they are flat, and they are flexible. So your foot can do what it needs to do and it can get stronger over time. That's going to allow you to be a better, stronger athlete. Andrew, how can they get them?
Yes, that's over at vivobarefoot.com/powerproject. When you guys get there, you'll see a code across the top. Make sure you use that code for 15% off your entire order. Again, vivobarefoot.com/powerproject. Links in the description as well as the podcast show notes.
Throw these away.
Oh my God. Dude, watch the camera.
Yo, that's the thing though, like, the key thing he said is like, I did this all the time as a kid, and you hear this from everybody about everything. When you see a kid up in the tree, like, I remember that kid I told you guys about that me and my girl were walking in the park and I just look up and this kid's in this fucking tree. I'm like, what the hell? And I thought to myself, I'm like, fuck, I used to climb trees. Why don't I climb trees?
All the time, too.
It's hard now, right?
Yeah, because maybe if I fall, like, when you're a kid and you fall, not just you're lighter, but you kind of like know how to,
Like a cat. Almost.
And nowadays, I think I could probably fall on the ground and do that shit. So I should probably go climb some fucking trees.
And fall on purpose?
Yeah, fall because, why not?
I don't know.
If you know how to roll, stop, drop, and roll, you know how to fucking, you won't hurt yourself.
Yeah, hit the ground and roll.
you gotta not stop doing kid type shit, bro. Like, go skip.
Yeah.
You know how we were talking about jumping before? Instead of jumping, just go skip a little bit, right?
Yeah.
That'll feel kind of good. And then you'll start jumping.
You cover a lot of ground too when you skip. My son likes skipping, and so I was like, "Oh shit, I'm ditching him." But along the same lines, my son he gets on the couch just to jump off, or he gets on the couch to just jump nonstop. Yeah. But we have
That's great.
Yeah, we have another one where it's got like an armrest and like a cup holder, and it's like a full step up. So like for him, it's like a full step up. It's higher, right? Because it's not cushioned. It's a hard surface, and he steps up. So he's like significantly higher than what he's used to. Yeah. And he stood up there and he looked down, and my wife and I were just like, "Is he gonna do it?" And he just like slowly, woof, and he jumped off. He landed. Thought it was the funniest thing ever, and now that's what he does. And so I was just like, dude, that's the equivalent of like if I jumped off something like about chest high. Like that's really high, and he's doing it over and over and over. And I understand he's, very, very small right now, but
think about these parkour motherfuckers though.
That's what I'm saying. Like because I'm just remembering like when we jump on the couches, my parents would be like, "What are you doing?" Like
exactly.
And now I'm like, "No, let that fucker go." Like,
yes.
he's just gonna keep jumping nonstop.
Right?
It's so much fun.
Yeah, let him build up those calves, right?
Yeah. Oh, yeah, definitely.
Yeah. You parents are like, "Oh, that's dangerous. Oh, no, don't do that, baby. Oh, stupid."
Like, there was a little bit of that in the beginning for sure, because he'd get close to the edge. Because like when he jumps, like we were talking about the trampoline, like when you hit it right and it launches you. So he'll get one of the cushions like right before the crack or whatever, and it pushes him forward. Yeah. And so he was doing that forward and backward. So I was afraid he was going to fall back and like hit a wall or something. But now it's like, he'll be fine. Like how high is it? And yeah, it's pretty funny to watch because like when he watches TV, he's jumping nonstop.
It's something y'all got to do. Just try not to look creepy. Go to a park and just stare at children. I haven't done this.
Observe.
No, but actually, it might. You don't need to go to a park and stare at kids because that's never good. But just think about what kids would be doing at a park, right? They'd be climbing on the monkey bars. They're going to be going down the slide. They're going to fucking hit those wood chips at the bottom and scratch themselves, and then they'll go back up and they'll do it again. They'll swing a little bit too high and they'll try to jump, and then they'll hit their knees on the ground and they'll go back and do it again. Yep. Just think about the shit that kids would do and just try to channel that shit. You know what I mean? Andrew, what was that shit about the old people in the nursing home that we've mentioned so many times on the podcast?
Yeah, 1,000 times. Long story short, a group of elderly people were moved into a home, and they were all told to pretend like it was whatever year it was in when they were in their 20s. Mm-hmm. The TV, all the shows, all the newspapers, all the magazines were all from that era. These old people walked in with walkers, wheelchairs. When they left, they were playing frisbee, and nobody had walkers. They all felt younger, and even their markers showed that they were younger. So just by pretending that they were young again, they became young.
Yeah, man,
it's fucking wild.
Yeah, the belief of your mind is a huge thing, and the belief of yourself, I think is massive. If you look at like Patrick Mahomes, he's had the same strength coach since like 6th grade. And so he just has a tremendous belief in like what his body can do. Mm-hmm. And he's done stuff that is just unbelievable. I was watching that show Quarterbacks, and the way that they show that he's able to like move his head and his neck. His trainer was like, he's kind of like an owl. It's kind of crazy the way he's able to like look at one person. He's able to see like another part of the field. He's able to keep his head almost like still as he's running like in one particular direction. It's really weird, and it's actually really important so that he can load up and throw, a very particular style or form. And then he also looks like he's parkouring, like why he's like playing football.
Yeah,
he's doing some really wild stuff. It's like video game-esque type stuff where you're like, that's some bullshit, but it's a legal play, and you're like, oh my God. He's scoring touchdowns, and it looks like he's having fun while he's doing it. But so many of these things, they're okay, like he has good genetics, that's clear. Like he definitely has good genetics. But he's been working on all these things for a really long time through strength training, through repetition on the field, through coming up with unconventional stuff. And he just so happened to have a head coach who really goes along with what he does. So a lot of coaches used to be meticulous about running the plays very specifically, but now they're like, well, if we got someone like Mahomes that can move around like this and can do things unconventionally, why don't we just play into this? And why doesn't the team just kind of mold around him? Years ago when Michael Vick was in the league, no one knew what to do with that at the time. He was way too fast and like way too gifted, and it just seemed like...
What type of intangibles did Michael Vick have? 'Cause even though I knew he was great, I don't know how great he was.
He quite possibly is the fastest football player ever.
Whoa, really? He was that fast?
He just fucking smoke everybody.
And he was a quarterback, right?
Yeah, he was fucking fast. I don't like, someone's going to be like, oh, he only ran a 4. Like, I don't know. Dude. So they bring up like his 40 time, which was still really fast. But I know that there's probably a couple guys that were faster 40 time wise. But I guess the only other guy I can think of that's that fast on the field was like Randy Moss. But Michael Vick was insane. And he could throw the football. He was just such a crazy athlete.
Mm-hmm. Like when you were talking about like urban legends or like fables of athletes, like there was a bunch for him. But like I heard that he could stand flat-footed and throw like some just crazy like 70 yards. It's just like, oof. Like, dude, you're not like just flat-footed. I apologize if that's like way off, but it's something insane.
I've heard that too.
Yeah, like he could and there's highlights of him, like it looks like the ball's on a freaking rope, dude. It's just like a line drive, like, whatever, how many yards, but like he was in like in his, well, I mean, who knows when his prime would have been, but like he was most popular when I was in high school, and I just remember being like, yeah, there's no way you're gonna stop this guy, like, ever. And of course, if you pick him in Madden, like you're literally unstoppable.
Think about if there's like YouTube back then, and Michael Vick was just to be able to explain how is it that you throw a football like that.
Right.
There's probably some bodily details that he does that like most people wouldn't think about.
Right.
It's just these these things. And the thing is when people can learn what these athletes do and maybe what they're thinking about when they do certain things, then you can then think about how can I try to emulate that feeling, or how can I get myself to start maybe moving in that way?
Yeah, you look at how like some of these shots of just how quick and fast he is.
And he was a big dude, right?
I think he had pretty good size. I don't think he's huge, but he is probably like 6'2" or 6'1". He's got to be around 200 pounds. It's hard to be an NFL quarterback and not be at least around 200 pounds because you just get your ass handed to you too much.
Yeah, and then during this time, the Niners were scratching to get 8-8. So
his 40 time was 4.33.
Yeah, which is just you definitely don't see that by a quarterback usually.
Yeah, 6 foot 216.
Yeah. So he had some good size.
Oh, shit.
But see if you can bring up that clip of Tyson, because Mike Tyson, was like, he was short in comparison to like pro heavyweight boxers. Yeah. Tyson's not short. He's like 5'10", 5'11", which is not like particularly short, but he also wasn't 6'3" or 6'4" like some of the guys that he fought. So a lot of coaches and a lot of people would say, sorry, man, like you're not tall enough. Like you're not cut out for this. You're not cut out for the heavyweight division. You got to remember when Tyson's coming up, you had Ali, had his reign. There were some other guys in there that were not quite as tall as Muhammad Ali that were good too. But then you had Larry Holmes was a champion for a long time who was built basically almost exactly like Muhammad Ali. And then you had Tyson come along and people were like, this guy's too short, to be able to do what he's doing. But his trainer, Customato, taught very specifically on how to get like in on people and how to get this kind of like infighting, but also the timing of being able to jab. And Tyson was amazing with his jab when he was young. He was amazing with his jab. He was amazing with his movement. And I don't know how many people know or understand how much studying of film that Tyson did. His original managers, the original guys that he got with, they had the most extensive boxing library out of anybody in the world. So they had every video, every film, and he would sit in there and just watch hours and hours and hours of people boxing. Every great fighter over the years, he'd just watch it over and over and over again, studying and analyzing the different angles, and then also trying to pay attention and ask people like, how tall is this guy? How tall is that guy? He started to find out like not everybody was 6'3". So he was like, oh, well, maybe I can do this. Maybe I can do that. He started seeing what was possible for him. And luckily for him, he had a coach and a trainer in Customato that believed in him and said, I think you're going to be world champion someday.
Yeah. And then didn't he fight like several times a year?
He fought very often in the beginning.
Yeah.
Especially, he fought.
It was like almost like every 2 weeks or something, he was fighting another big ass dude.
He fought very often, not when he was champion necessarily, because it's like that's like takes a little longer, every 6 months or something like that. But when he was coming up, he fought like probably like once a month or something, or once every 6 weeks.
That's
at least.
Sick. Let's check this out.
Most fighters are used to fighting opponents 6'3", 6'2", the average heavyweight. And I feel that I use it to my advantage because I move my head, I'm very quick, and I'm low to the ground, and it's very difficult to hit me. I crouch low just to make my opponents punch down because I know where they're going to punch at.
It's like
I get a lot of leverage for my punches. And it doesn't matter if I punch up or straight or down or around, I have good leverage. Jabbing doesn't have anything to do with the length of your arms or anything. Jabbing is all to do with timing. If you throw your jab at the right time, you could be 5'6", and I'll jab a guy 6'4". I'm unique at being one of the shortest heavyweights in the history and having the second shortest reach in history, and still I'm tremendously successful.
That's wild. I mean, you think what an advantage sometimes the reach is. We see it a lot in MMA, and
it's on the tail of the tape.
Yeah, it's an important feature, right? Like the guy can keep his distance, especially in a sport like boxing, where if you can maybe stay on the outside and be quick and start to kind of slow the guy down with some jabs and some body shots, and you can kind of just take it into the latter rounds, and hopefully you can kind of survive and win the fight. But not against Tyson. He moved around way too much. He had so much head movement, and in this video, he's like ducking. He's getting so low to the ground with his athleticism. I don't think people never seen anybody that strong and that explosive before in the sport. And it wasn't like, I don't think Tyson was known as like some big like lifter or anything. I know that he trained in the gym, but he did more traditional like boxing style training, like jumping rope, sit-ups, push-ups, med ball work. I'm sure he did like a little bit of bench pressing and stuff, but I think Tyson lifting was like way later on, and it was later on in his career when he just didn't move as well. When he was young, he was mainly just boxing.
5'10", 220, right? The thing is like, it's not like I pay super close attention to boxing, but I know that through my years, I have not seen another heavyweight that's been able to move like a lightweight, like the way he does. Because there are many lighter boxers who have that lightweight movement, the ability to bob and weave quick and swift. I have not seen a heavyweight emulate that. I've seen a lot, like, I've seen heavyweight boxers, and they kind of box like heavyweight boxers do, right? I think that's one thing that's super impressive about that. He didn't. I mean, he wasn't built like the typical heavyweight, but at the same time, it's, again, like you said, he's not like he was small. He was 5'10", right? So it's fucking amazing.
Yeah. I'm just thinking about great boxers, but like Roy Jones Jr. always comes to mind. I mean, he wasn't a heavyweight, but
it's like 180 something.
He went up to go fight a heavyweight.
Yeah, pull up some shots of him, because Roy Jones was like super unconventional.
He didn't guard his face, right? Is that something about him? Or?
I think
this is old.
Yeah, I think he just again, tons of head movement, but unconventional. And Mayweather, same thing. Mayweather would shield himself against his opponent. He would stand in a very particular way. Yeah, to where you only saw like, I don't know, 50% or 30% of his body. And Roy Jones doing the same thing, where his shoulder is forward. And we're watching the video, and he's like putting his hands out, and then he's hitting the guy. And
come on,
yeah, there's.
I swear he's the reason why a lot of dudes can't street fight, because they will emulate. Yes,
because they think they got that shit going on.
He looks, dude, nobody looked fucking cooler in the ring than Roy Jones, and it's like, dude, oh god. He was dope, man.
Hey, but you see, he breaks all the rules of what a typical coach is going to tell an athlete to do in terms of boxing, right? Like a coach is going to tell you, keep your hands up. Don't your chin can't be out here.
Yeah.
And he's just like, fuck you. Hit me.
Right.
But he has all these other conceptual things down where it like builds this unorthodox form of boxing, right?
Yeah.
Shit.
Yeah, there was another video where it's like he can't be touched or some shit. I'll find it later, but it's okay.
How about that Conor McGregor clip?
Yeah.
Because
that's really neat too. I think a lot of these guys, they have these nuances, and I think they learn it over like a long period of time.
Yeah,
they're training for fights. They're obviously learning stuff from coaches. They're learning stuff from other athletes, but they're also learning from getting beaten,
experience.
Yeah, getting defeated, losing. Going through a lot of trials, going through a lot of tribulations, being like super upset that they didn't do better than they.
That's GSP.
Oh, here's GSP.
Oh, sorry.
Yeah, that's okay. You
that's
can,
all good.
You can bring that up.
All right. Let's go.
This is pretty dope too.
Looking up, like flinching. You want to load up the nervous system of your opponent by giving him different useless information to make him worry about. So I'm faking it. So he's reacting and flinching of all the stuff I'm giving it to him. In reality, maybe I want to relax. I don't want to attack him, but I'm looking up, like flinching. That's what I'm doing now. Is I'm loading up his nervous system, make him react, and by doing so, his reaction time will diminish, because it's like a muscle. The more rep you do, the more the muscle will get tired. At one point, you're like, you can't lift as much weight. Same thing, the nervous system. The more I make you react, the more tired you become for your nervous system. Not physically, but it's a nervous system. The less performant you will become.
He said loaded up with useless information. How cool is that? And then plus, what if he already connected with like 12 shots to the calf or shin? Could be little kind of baby shots at first, but you're probably thinking in your head, man, if he keeps landing those, like, we're just going to be here all day. He's going to keep kicking my leg. My leg's probably going to get really sore. and maybe they don't hurt that bad, but you have to at least respect those kicks. And in MMA, you see them check the kick where they pick their leg up. You pick your leg up, now you're on one leg. Now you're at another disadvantage, right? So it's interesting how he thinks. I've never heard anybody say anything quite like that, but it's no surprise because, again, there's another example of one of the greatest of all time.
Power Project Family, we talk about beef and meat all the time on the podcast. That's why we partnered with Certified Piedmontese Beef. But did you know this? That 85% of all grass-fed, grass-finished beef in the United States is imported from other countries? 85%.
Damn.
But Certified Piedmontese is made in the U.S. of A.
America.
Fuck yeah. So go out and get some of the best tasting, some of the leanest, some of the best beef from Piedmontese. Andrew, how can they get it?
Absolutely. So you guys can head over to cpbeef.com and at checkout enter promo code POWER to save 25% off your entire order. And if your order is $150 or more, you get free 2-day shipping. Again, cpbeef.com. Links to them down in the description as well as the podcast show notes.
Fuck yeah.
If you think about it, when we're first born, we learn to balance sitting up so we don't fall down. We learn to crawl, we learn to stand, we learn to walk, we learn to run. But somewhere then we stop practicing it. Get a roundhouse. Okay. Yes, there you go. And now try go slow. You want to get the muscles firing. Yeah, you want to be strong here. See the way that's kind of like one, but gives then. You want to be able to go with no give. Somewhere then down the line, we're good now. So I like to take it back, and I've always worked on balance training. Give me more of an arch on the back. At the end, at the final bit. So this last little bit has to be. It's very good for martial arts. It's very good for everything. If you're balanced, you're in control.
I just feel like my hip is about to cramp just watching.
Oh, yeah. That's gotta be
that sucks.
difficult. Like his shirt even says fast on it. And obviously, Conor McGregor had the ability to go very, very fast and to be very quick in the ring. But he's telling these guys to slow down. And it's very specific so that they get like the feedback and they feel it in the particular muscles so that when they're in the ring, they can probably snap and give it a little extra, put a little extra on it that you otherwise wouldn't be able to do unless you kind of could feel those muscles first.
Who is it that I've heard the phrase slow is smooth and smooth is fast?
Yeah, that's a kind of long time military saying, I believe.
Yeah, but that makes so much sense. First off, it's like even when it comes to lifting, right? Instead of like as a lifter gets good, instead of trying to dive bomb a squat and do it fast, how about slowing the rep down so that maybe you can find where your weak point is in the lift? So maybe you'll find like, oh shit, once I get here, I start to fucking buckle. Okay, can you work on that phase of the movement? Because then you can probably speed up and then it can become a very good movement.
Right.
But then the other aspect here of balance, like someone that gets drilled so much is like Joel Seedman for having some of his athletes do things on one leg. And then you got people like, why don't you just go squat, bench, deadlift? And I get some of the stuff that Seedman does is pretty wild. But, I can say when it comes to something like lifting, powerlifting, or with Olympic lifting, there's a semblance of balance, but everything is pretty much on 2 feet, right? So I can understand how people who specialize in these sports don't really train balance, nor do they really care about it. But then if you do so much of this type of training and then you go try and do a sport where you have to be dynamic on more than one foot and you have to move around a little bit, you're going to find that, oh shit, I can get swept super easily, or wow, I'm not really great with my feet. Why? Because you don't really train balance. That's why the thing like from Power Plus with that drainage pipe, this has been so fucking powerful. And I just cut a drainage pipe in half. I have one at home. I have one here at the gym. I'm walking on that thing all the time. I'm doing shit on one leg on it now, balancing on one leg on it. And what has that done for me? Now in jiu-jitsu, my balance has been pretty good. Now my balance is even better. And it's just from a simple practice of walking around on a drainage pipe. And it strengthens the feet. There's so many things that are going on, but balance is being trained and it's pretty fucking fun. Last thing. What the fuck do you see kids do all the time? Sometimes they go on one leg. Sometimes they're on a sidewalk and they see the sidewalk and they're like, let me just walk on the sidewalk and see what happens here. They're constantly doing these things and giving themselves these inputs where they end up moving better. But then at some point we stop. And then we fall at 60 because our balance is shit. It's unfortunate. You were saying something though at the beginning with the balance thing that you heard somebody talk about. I don't think you mentioned it on the show though.
Well, I'm not sure if I recall, but I was just gonna. Oh yeah. I saw a clip of somebody just talking about balance, and they were saying like if you close your eyes, it changes the proprioception. So if you just go on one foot, maybe that doesn't feel that difficult. And then if you start to kind of move as you're on one foot, and then if you close your eyes as you're on one foot, it makes things more difficult. And you see some athletes training this way, and you see them doing things in this fashion. And if you were to think about, just think about like what sports really have to demonstrate like a lot of balance. And something that kind of comes to mind is something like gymnastics. Immediately comes to mind, maybe like maybe figure skating or something. I don't know, like you're on one leg a lot in figure skating and stuff like that. And you're doing a lot of jumps and twists and all that. So there's a lot of balance going on with those things. And then start to think about, well, what sport would a gymnastics person do where they would just do awful in? It's like you can't really, you know what I mean? Like, okay, they might be challenging for them to do like volleyball or basketball where the athletes are normally taller, but they can go and play those sports and not get hurt.
Yeah.
Like they could probably go and play just about anything. I do realize that there's a lot of injuries in gymnastics. So some people are like, I did gymnastics and I'm fucked up. I understand. I get it.
Bitch. I'm fucking around.
But their strength to body weight ratio is off the charts. Their balance is off the charts. And our boy Graham, he said that he's gone to some gymnastics recently, and he's like, just even watching people warm up, you're like, what the like, how are you doing that? You just got here 10 seconds ago, but it's just part of their routine.
Yeah.
Like, oh, I'm just going to hop on this balance beam and just start walking across it, or start handstand walking across the gym. Like, you just got here. Like, isn't your body stiff or what? For them, it's just normal. No, my body's not stiff. I'm good. I'm just start doing my warm-ups. Like, holy shit.
Yeah, I remember, dude, like my brain is scrambled with so much information, but I remember if it was somebody that said it on this podcast, a guest, if it was one of you guys, or if it was like in one of my classes or like whatever it was, but somebody was talking about technique, about slowing it down and being as smooth as possible. And then once you get it and it's smooth, like, and you're so slow that it becomes boring. That's when you can start to pick it up. I think it might have been Marigali. I'm not, dude. Again, I cannot remember who said it this way, but it made so much sense. And I was just like, oh, he was like, it's kind of like you want to be so good at it that you have to like, you're annoyed that you're not going faster because it's that easy. And I'm like, damn, like that's a really good like goal to try to strive for, to be like, I'm going to be so proficient at this that I'm going to be bored by it.
When you're a little kid, like, how do you learn? How do you start to read? The kid that's like really struggling and he can't hit the words, like, okay, let's just slow it down a bunch. The same thing with a drill. You keep doing keep grabbing the wrong wrist or the wrong arm, or you're, in football, like running the wrong way or doing the wrong assignment. Your coach is like, no, you stepped with your left again. You're like, no, I didn't. He's like, yeah, you did. And you do it again. Like, nope, you stepped with your left again. Your only choice at that point is to slow down and to take a very deliberate step. Like, oh, that's how it feels when I go with my left. Because you have to not only understand what you're supposed to do, you have to also like feel it. And I think that's what these athletes have, is maybe they don't have an ability sometimes to transcribe it and to spit it back to you in a very specific way of how they did it, because they're just like, hey man, how'd you do that? They're like, I don't know. Sometimes they're just gifted, and they just figure it out. I don't even want to say gifted necessarily.
They figure it out.
They just fucking figure it out. And some people are really good mimickers. Some people are just flat out really good at mimicking. If you show somebody something, I lost who's the famous, who's the guy who's playing Tyson in the movie coming up? Famous actor.
Jamie Foxx.
Jamie Foxx.
Oh, yeah.
Jamie Foxx is
He's so talented,
right?
At everything.
Yeah, he's unbelievable at like becoming a different person. You're like, what the fuck? Those kind of it wouldn't surprise me at all if if he's like, oh, I'll just do a layup like Jordan did, like or a particular move that somebody else did, because he can it seems like he can just pick up what somebody else is doing right away.
Sports, man.
That's funny. He used to just like make fun of the way Tyson used to speak back in the day on his stand-up. That's awesome that he's going to actually play him now.
Yeah.
Right.
I remember seeing some of that. On the note of what you were saying about like, you want to get good at something, slow it down. That's kind of what you have to do when you're starting to do some of these things that we've talked about. Like if you want to start jumping, right, instead of trying to find a big box and jumping on the biggest box you can find, jump on a lower surface first and come down from it. Jump on a low surface, come down from it. Do a single leg hop, but hold on to something and then hop on a single leg, right? So you can see how your body responds to that. The thing you mentioned in the gym that was kind of funny about sprinting, you were just talking about this, and it's like some people won't receive this, but it makes so much sense. Instead of trying to go, if you haven't sprinted forever, instead of trying to go sprint as hard as you can and increasing your stride, just try to go as fast as you can with little steps. Think about it. Because if you're not...
Pretend your feet are only like, 12 to 14 inches apart or something. And just move them as quick as you can.
Yeah.
It feels kind of fucked up.
If you do it honestly...
Stay low and just...
Right. And you could do that, or literally, you could fucking just stand where you are and just fucking
go.
Just you won't hurt yourself, but one thing you'll feel your hip flexors go.
Oh, yeah.
Especially if you haven't done something like that in a minute, your hip flexors will be on fire if you just go as fast as you can in place for a minute. And that is one of the lowest regressions of something like a sprint, right? But then over time, extend that, go a little longer, go a little faster, try to keep relaxed, and then maybe a year from now, you might actually be sprinting. But sprint on day one, hurt your hamstring and say, sprints aren't for me anymore, I can't do them. That's fucked.
Hey, you gotta be careful.
Yeah.
Let's see who we got. This guy.
Mr. Natty Pants.
Natty Pants.
Seated rows, wide grip. I'm trying to get that mid upper back. So lean forward, pull it up, pull it as far as you possibly can. Get that mid back.
But the EMGs.
If you can also keep the chin and head up. Incorporate those traps into it. Beautiful to that back. So today, instead of going that narrow grip, I'm going a wider grip. I want to get more of those lats outside, that whole upper shelf, instead of just the mid by that close grip. Try them both. I love them both, but today we're going wide.
It's like a mind-muscle connection going on there. Mike has obviously seen his upper back a million times, probably stares at it before he heads off to the gym every morning, looking at photographs and mirrors and everything else. A lot of people don't even have that development. So for someone that's new that doesn't have that development, it might be hard to kind of envision those muscles contracting at first. But over time, as you do it more and as you get a feel for it, as you start slowly, you should start to be able to feel something in those areas. Like maybe just you're doing a row and you're doing kind of higher reps, and then all of a sudden you start to feel some warmth in that area. You start to feel that area kind of fill up with some blood. And over time, you'll be able to kind of get a similar mind-muscle connection, but it takes a long time. I think so much of what we're talking about here today is like, it's more of like an art form than it is a science. And that's where sometimes I get frustrated with nutrition. Sometimes I get frustrated with some of the stuff in the fitness industry because I think so much of this is an art form. And rather than just a science. Obviously, there's science to it, but it seems like the science, we're always like, that can't be right. I heard John Wellborn talking the other day how he talked to a geneticist and they told him that he had this genetic anomaly thing going on with his body where he was always going to be like broken and busted. And he's like, well, I played almost a full decade in the NFL. And the guy's like, well, this is just another case of our science not being able to like really identify what the hell's going on exactly. But he's like, this is what your genetics say, and this is normally the way that things are. So things are like, they're not always as they appear. I think they're sometimes a little bit off.
I had a foot doctor say that I had to wear orthotics for the rest of my life when I was 16 because I have flat feet. Bitch, was because I had flat feet. It's because I was stuffing my feet in narrow ass shoes. Like, and it's because your science told you so. This is why some of that is kind of bullshit. And especially in fitness, it's like, I get how so many people are like, well, this is the science-backed way to do a lat pull down where you're going to get the most, muscle activation, blah, blah, blah. But I think there is a benefit in paying attention to some of the people who have been able to do this for a long time and who have managed to build impressive physiques, because we already know at this point, because science has said that the mind-muscle connection is real. Lifters who have a better connection to certain muscle groups can actually activate those muscle groups better with lighter weight than lifters who don't. So how about a lifter who's been at this and is 50-something, and whether you love him or hate him, there are nuances to the way that he teaches lifting that most of these motherfuckers cannot understand, nor they can teach. They can't teach it, right? They'll say that an EMG says this, but like, I bet you the EMG is going to be much different on the person that can activate that muscle group than the person who's like 5 years training and is still doing the same fucking movements because they're more biomechanically efficient. Pay attention to the one with experience, dog. Or at least give them a little bit of attention and don't dismiss them because it's not science backed. You're being very close-minded.
Yeah, I always like what Mark says. You know, he's like, they didn't test, anybody like me, or they didn't run these tests on me. Like, they're not running these tests on O'Hearn. They're not running, tests on anybody that we can really even like point to. And the other thing that I like when it comes to studies, it's like what did we do in the beginning? Like, again, I make the stupid joke, but it's like when man got the first ability to like put stuff on like a scribe, was the first fucking thing that he did was like, oh, let's run a study. It's like, no, like we had to figure shit out. And at some point it wasn't the science, or at some point there was no study to back up everything. So it's like, how the hell did we advance? It's like, we had to try new shit. We had to listen to people in the fucking field. But no, for some reason with social media and everything, it's like there's no proof.
Somebody's like cracking open a coconut and eating and enjoying it, and you're like, well, let me figure out the most optimal way
exactly
to get inside of that. And meanwhile, someone just broke it on a rock, and they're like, this seems to work pretty fucking good. I think if you look at someone like Charles Glass, right? He's somebody that is going to use unconventional techniques. I've had opportunities to work with Charles before, and opportunities to talk with him. And in talking to him, he's very short. He doesn't really say or explain a lot. He's just like, do this, try it this way, go like this, and move your muscle this way. And then he'll be like, no, try to squeeze here and try to relax over here and move this muscle there. And it's like, it's not even really that specific. It's actually like, it's kind of like vague, but it's super specific on how you're positioning yourself on a machine. He'll take a leg press machine at Gold's Gym, and he'll turn it into some sort of like the most amazing back exercise ever, because it's like, yeah, I think the lats kind of, he'll say, I think the lats kind of work like this. He's not really whipping out some study. He's just saying, this is what I think, this is what I feel. And he's one of the most successful bodybuilding coaches of all time, coaching many, many champions over the years.
One thing that I think is actually going to help a lot of people when it comes to mind-muscle connection is, like we just said, slowing things down, but then closing your eyes and trying to focus on the muscle group that you're trying to activate. Let's say that you're doing a row, right? And let's say that it is the mid-back that you're trying to hit. So close your eyes and maybe see if you can get those muscles to start firing, right? And then have some tension on the bar and get those muscles to start firing and then pull. Right? Most people don't think that deeply about it, but at this point, very experienced lifters can do that. I can feel my erectors when I want to feel my erectors on any given movement. I can flex my erectors whenever I want to because I have full control of that area and almost every other area of my body because I've spent time thinking about those muscle groups when lifting with those muscle groups, right? And you can develop that over time, and then at some point, wow, you have really good this, you have really good that. Why? Because you have a close connection. You have a close mind-muscle connection to those body parts. But a lot of people don't necessarily think about that. And those are the nuances that Mike talks about all the time. That's why people see him lifting with his eyes closed all the time, because he's actually really thinking about that area and getting that area specifically to fire before he does a movement.
Yeah, and he even goes into saying that he actually, like, not that he can see it, but like he closes his eyes and he sees like each muscle fiber actually like, like tearing, and like all these other little tiny, like there's like levels to it, right? Like we're like, what you were explaining might be like, I mean, it's pretty deep, but it's like up here, right? Like where you're talking about like, oh, let's focus on the muscle. And he goes like even further, like Inception or something, it's like, yeah, he stays very connected, like more so than a lot of people are going to understand. Or even fathom,
Yeah, and if you do kind of close your eyes on some of these things, you can kind of block out some of everything else that's going on. There's a lot of there's kind of a lot of shit going on, and you can almost go within yourself. And I think that's what Mike has done for years on a lot of exercises, and then even just your own feedback. You know, you get off of an exercise and you go, whoo, or you get done doing a certain thing with a group of people, and it's really easy to like over amplify what it is that you're doing, and be like, fuck, man, this is so hard, you know. I understand why we do that, because it's kind of fun to like be in some of that with somebody else. But at the same time, you could also do it, not make any noise at all. Sometimes it can be difficult. And there are times where the intensity is so high where you're gonna let out a thud or a grunt or this or that. But again, all those things they're inputs, and you might watch somebody do that, and you might say, I don't get it. Like, why is that guy doing that? Or why does Nsima, or why has Kelly Starrett talked about, you know, kind of having this like stoic look while you're doing a lift? I don't really get it. Well, I think the main thing is just to try some of these things. Try some of these things, and you'll see right away whether they work for you or not. You know, maybe it feels awkward or it feels off. But I know for myself, like just trying to relax my eyebrows, because they want to frown so much when I'm running, especially because I'm not usually running with like sunglasses or anything. It's pretty bright out. And then plus every once in a while, the run gets to be a little difficult and the eyebrows go burp and they get a little mad here and there. And I'm like, no, like I like doing this. This is fun. And I want to breathe and I want to be more calm. But if I'm listening to music that's raging and then I'm like this the whole time, what's that input into my body? You know, we're talking about a mind-muscle connection. What about like a spirit and muscle connection, or a spirit and body connection? So if my spirit is raging like this and I'm like running with like anger or something like that, how is that registering in my body? Is my body going to be loose? Is it going to be easier for me to turn into an athlete or a better athlete? Or is it going to be harder? In my opinion, it's going to be harder. So I'm trying my best to just dude, relax. Every 3 minutes or so while I'm running. Dude, relax. Relax. Let your hands be, you know, instead of clenching your fists like this, just let them loose. So that's what I'm working on.
You guys remember Goose Faba from Anger Management or no?
No.
Really?
Anger Management?
Don't remember that movie with Adam Sandler?
Oh, yeah, I'd never seen it.
Well, that's okay.
I missed it. I like Adam Sandler movies.
Yeah, so do I.
Even the really bad ones, I like them.
Well, that was one of the good ones.
Yeah.
Like, that was one of the very good ones.
Jack Nicholson, right?
Jack Nicholson, you know.
No, I know. I missed it. I didn't get a chance to see it.
I hate to sound like a broken record, but your sleep quality most likely sucks.
Aww.
It's one of the biggest things that we talk about on the podcast. So many guests have come on and talked about how sleep can help you stick to your diet, stick to your workout plan, lose body fat, gain muscle, all the good things that you're trying to do, but it's hard to do because you might be snoring. And if you're snoring, that's why we've partnered with Hostage Tape, which is mouth tape that you can put over your nose, your mouth, when you're asleep to help you stop snoring and breathe through your nose. But if you haven't been breathing through your nose this whole time while you've been sleeping, it's going to be a little bit difficult to get air through there. That's also why Hostage Tape has nose strips to help open up your nasal airways and make it easier to breathe through your nose when you're asleep. Now, your partner won't be having to fuck with you when you're asleep because you'll be actually breathing through your nose. Andrew, how can they get it?
Yes, that's over at hostagetape.com/powerproject, where you guys will receive an entire year supply of nasal strips and mouth tape, all for less than $1 a night. Again, that's at hostagetape.com/powerproject. Links in the description as well as the podcast show notes. Yeah, we got another video here.
Oh yeah, Chuck Liddell. And people would think that this punch that Chuck Liddell is going to be demonstrating here was like garbage back in the day, especially when boxers would watch MMA. They're like, that's a crappy punch. Why is anybody going to punch like that? Until Chuck Liddell knocked out just about everybody with this punch.
Before you played, I also think Khabib did this punch a lot. I remember watching some Khabib matches and seeing him do this. We'll play it.
It's like a video game punch.
Yeah.
Just make it look like a... Start with your fight stance. I want your hand, now drop your hands.
He still looks powerful.
I want, this one is your right hand here. Now I'm going to swing this. Now I throw it, and I'm going to over-exaggerate it to start because I want this angle.
The Iceman.
With that punch. When I throw it, I'm coming here. I just want to come here. I'm going through, I'm not going to go. You start doing that punch down, I'd rather have you Just throw your straight right. Try it just from here a little bit. Try setting it up either if you're a wrestler, or try just make it look like a right hand. But
That'd be so scary.
remember, it's still when I get here, it's still
Yeah, that guy wants to be like out of there.
Yeah, he wants no part of this stupid video.
He's like, good job, Chuck. I'm out of here. I think, that little, just a small demonstration of him, shooting on the leg. Chuck Liddell was one of the best wrestlers that the UFC has ever seen up until that point. And he was incredible with sprawling and blocking people's shot when they tried to take him down. And so people had to respect that when he did like a feint. But his point in this video, he's also explaining that when you would go for some of these fakes or some of these feints, that you need to make it look like you're actually going to go through with the movement itself. And again, somebody with so much experience, been in the ring probably 70 times or so for a fight, maybe even more. He has the experience, and then he's coming up with that just giant haymaker. Like it looks like a video game punch that he's just throwing this like bomb of a punch. And who would ever thought that would work? Like, you're not going to get taught that, I don't think, by like a regular coach.
No, it became a thing, right? It was like the overhand right. Like, I'm sorry, I don't remember prior to Chuck Liddell. Again, I'm not like a fucking fight historian or anything, but growing up, like, I didn't remember anybody really throwing that style of punch.
Can you type in, Andrew, on YouTube, Khabib drops Conor McGregor, and just play the video that has 39,000 views. Go to second 40 and just watch from there. Because the reason why I was like, I know I've seen this before is because, like, Chuck was saying, like, actually go for the takedown, right? And I've seen Khabib do this punch so much because he threatens takedowns.
Oh yeah,
right.
If he takes someone down, they're toast.
They're fucking fucked. But Khabib will do this type of punch a lot. We'll play this real quick. Yeah.
You want audio?
I mean, you can have it on if you want. Actually, no, let's not. We don't want to get fucked. But just wait for it. It comes a little bit after this.
That was such a crazy fight.
Mm-hmm.
These guys do such good idea, so well with just like changing like the levels and the speed at which you're moving and everything.
Dagestanis are different, dog. Oh, just wait.
Oh, okay. Man, he always wraps up everybody's legs with his own legs. Yep.
He was doing that a lot during that fight where it was just
Well, and he also just took him down so easily. So it's like you have to respect the takedown. You have to, if you don't react to it, it's a big mistake. See if you can try to bring up just a couple clips of those haymaker bombs from Liddell so people can kind of see it like in action. I know a lot of people probably have. But it's really, again, an impressive movement. It's something that's slightly unconventional.
Is it older Chuck Liddell?
Oh, yeah, against Randy Couture. Oh.
What? Hold on.
He just clipped him pretty good right there. Oh, against Tito.
Oops. Hopefully I clicked on a good video.
Well, this is still entertaining. He's still cooking this fool. Fuck.
He just goes for it.
Damn.
God.
But even that aggressiveness and that speed, Vitor Belfort, when he came into the UFC, obviously he had a pedigree with jiu-jitsu, and he came in and just punched the shit out of everybody because he was faster and more explosive, and he was a better athlete than everybody. And no one could quite hang with it. God, he fought. I forget. Like, you just forget he just fought Chuck Liddell fought everybody.
Fought for so long.
Yeah, he did.
Let's see here. Oh, that was quick.
Yeah, a lot of times he would be able to knock somebody out, off of his like back foot and stuff too, without, kind of unconventional again, without as much behind it as you would think. Let's see if we can just bring up the clip of Phelps.
Oh, okay.
So I think this is pretty extraordinary. I'll just kind of mention a couple of things before you hit the play button on it. But Michael Phelps, he won over 20 gold medals, I believe. And my wife explained this to me. She's a swimmer, and she said that it's been debated for a really long time, for years and years, on like what's faster, going under the water and being like in the water for a particular style of swimming that they're doing in this event. I can't remember if they're doing freestyle, butterfly, or if it makes more sense to stay under the water or to come up out of the water. And I guess the conventional wisdom at the time was that you would be faster by going in the water, because when you're in the water is where you're going to actually, once you complete the stroke, you're going to like reach out further. And Phelps does something different at the end of this race that just blew all that shit.
You're talking about reaching for the wall.
Yeah, reaching for the wall. And he reaches for the wall out of the water. And so, once again, the athlete is kind of just doing their own thing, doing their own thing by their own levels of experience.
Leading for Serbia. Is it going to be the 7th hurdle that he's going to fall at? He's coming back. He's coming back very strongly, Michael Phelps. Surely he can't do this from this space. Michael Phelps is coming back in 5. Is he going to get the touch? No, he's not. Oh, no. He's got it. Oh, he's got it. Oh, Michael Phelps. Tight. Oh, he's tight. Oh.
Kind of looked like he was behind by a pinch kind of the whole time, right?
Yeah, because when you showed me this video initially, I was like, wait, oh, shit. Michael's ahead, but the guy that was ahead, he ended up losing.
Oh yeah, there's the famous meme.
Shouldn't have looked over, man.
See if you can play that the rest of that clip. Like it goes to like a slow motion shot. If you can fast forward maybe just a bit.
He's probably so angry that guy was dancing in front of him.
Yeah.
Oh yeah.
Let's see here.
Phelps didn't have a good one. He had a stinker. Cabbage was leading by a good half a second. He's in. This is down the field, but please show us this finish.
Yeah, here we go.
I want a super slow-mo of the finish. Here we go. Look, Cabbage is in. I'm not sure what's happened here, He's not in yet. No, he's not. No, he's not. Look. You are kidding me. Look. You're kidding me.
Damn.
They've just shown that on the big screen. That was just gone to the crowd.
They have an electronic touchpad too, so they got it. They got it. That shit like digital. There's a digital sensor in there. Michael Phelps too, like famously just swam like a fucking maniac in terms of like the amount of volume that he did. And we see this time and time again. We've seen it in bodybuilding. We've seen it in powerlifting. We've seen it in many sports where Eric Spoto comes to mind. Eric Spoto benched 716, I believe it was, or 722 and broke the all-time bench record years ago, all-time raw bench press record. And in asking Eric about his training, so it's like, holy shit, man, like according to like the information I have, what you do doesn't make any sense. But it clearly fucking worked. I'd never seen anybody that big before. His forearms were probably like 20 inches. I don't know how big his fucking biceps were. But he's just like absolutely massive, and he could manhandle weight like crazy. He'd bench 5 plates and just kind of stroke the weight like just so quick. You were like, yeah, stroke it. He would just stroke that weight real fast. And he was like, holy shit. It's just
kind of hot. Eric Spoto stroking some weight. I mean, with those big forearms and hands.
On the bench like that?
Shit.
It's real
got
hot.
Me chubbed up.
All sweaty.
Mm-hmm.
Ooh. Holy shit.
But he would do like a pyramid. Like he would do high reps all the way up until he got to a heavier weight. And then he would pyramid back down. And, he would do like, I don't know, he would do like 315 for like 30 reps. And then he would do 4. Yeah. And then he would do, like, I saw him do this stuff. It just didn't make any sense. He'd do 405 for like 20. He'd throw 5 plates on. He'd do it for like 10 or 12. He'd throw 5.5 plates on. He would do it for like a set of 6 or 8. Then he'd throw 6 plates on. And he would do that for a set of like 4 or 5. And then he was like, okay, time to, go for 635, and he would do that for like a single or double. And then he would just do the whole thing kind of backwards again. So he would go to 585 and get some reps out of that. And he would go to 495 and 405 and 315 again. And you're just like, I remember asking him, like, any idea, like, just because like the NFL Combine does the 225, you're like, just, you have any idea how many times you could do 225? And he was just like, nah, it's too light.
You know who this reminds me of?
It just keeps going.
Jesse Norris.
Yeah.
Because Jesse Norris fucking trained in a barn for most of his training career, like not really training with other people. He just did what felt right. And what ended up feeling right for Jesse Norris was years and years of super high volume training. And then he comes onto the field super young, breaking records, and everyone's like, oh, he's competing in the USAPL, he's breaking these records, he's probably not natural. It's like, bitch, he's been training for more volume than you have for decades. Like, it's when people are doing some unrealistic shit or some wild shit, everyone's so quick to say, oh, you're on drugs or some shit. But you haven't seen what this dude has been doing. Jesus Olivares. Him and his brother. The two probably strongest brothers in powerlifting. Jesus is the strongest powerlifter on earth right now. And what's he been doing for a long fucking time? Longer than probably most people. Along with having great genetics, we can't take that away.
Moving around horse manure.
Right? Bales of hay and shit. Working.
Lots of shit.
Right? But what can we take away from that? Like, right now, maybe you can't do super high volume, but can you build yourself up to being able to handle a good amount of volume? Not just lifting heavy, but like doing a good amount of volume. Can you do that? Because if you can, maybe you can get some of what some of these guys have.
Being able to handle just a crazy amount of like, just having a ton of resilience against some of the stuff that you're doing. How do you think, Nsima, how do you think some of the like unconventional stuff that we've learned in the last couple, maybe like months or last 2 years or so has helped you? And do you think that it has, do you think it's changed like the trajectory maybe of your jiu-jitsu career?
100%. I remember before
because you're already a good athlete. You were already, you're already athletic. But we're starting to implement some different shit rather than just bodybuilding, rather than just powerlifting.
I was already focusing on mobility stuff before, so I was pretty mobile. But the thing that I think the big thing that started connecting a lot of things was focusing on the feet. And it's funny because we've had certain people come on and they're like, that's not a big deal. The feet aren't a big deal. But before I started focusing on strengthening my feet, I had multiple foot injuries. Remember I had this tournament in Atlanta and then I injured my foot in that tournament and I had to call Kelly Starrett and Kelly was like, okay, voodoo floss that shit, right? And he healed. But then I had another foot injury after that. I'm like, why the fuck am I getting these foot injuries? It's partially because my feet weren't like, I may have been playing soccer all my life, but I was stuck in these narrow ass shoes. And jiu-jitsu was one of the new things in my life that I did barefoot. When I started to do things and to strengthen the feet, and I really started paying attention to that, it's like everything kind of started falling into place. And then also doing all the things to loosen up my body, like some of the kettlebell stuff, etc. I am a different athlete now. Like my feet look different. One thing I was telling you guys was, some people have this shit just because they've been doing it for so long. This woman, Andrew, if you can pull her up, Kendall Roosling on Instagram. I met Kendall over at Masters Worlds. She was there. She's a jiu-jitsu world champion. She's won multiple world championships, but she's been doing jiu-jitsu since she was 5. So as we were talking, I looked down, I saw her feet in some sandals. I looked up and I was like, hey, Kendall, this is gonna be kind of weird, but can I see your foot? Can you pull that out of that sandal for a sec? And she was like, oh yeah, sure. I'm like, how long have you been doing jiu-jitsu? She's like, since I was 5. I'm like, look at your feet, Kendall. Look at like they were tendinous and they were like wide and they were strong feet. But that's partially why, like, some athletes just have this shit. And the athletes like me who didn't have that, you need to work harder on it. You need to pay attention to it. There's certain intangibles to the way, like even Cassio. I look at Cassio's feet, right? Yeah, that's her. But I look at Cassio and his feet when he's rolling, and I look at a lot of like really high level guys who've been doing jiu-jitsu for a while, and their feet are constantly doing things when they're playing guard. It's like their feet are grabbing at people's hands. And these aren't the things people pay attention to. But these small things can make all the biggest difference. So honestly, man, if I knew the shit I knew now about like my feet when I played soccer, I would still be playing soccer. Because that's what took me out of it. I had to get part of my foot shaved because cleats were super fucking narrow.
I was hanging out with my niece like maybe like 2 or 3 months ago.
Yeah.
And she's probably like 7 or something. And she's just like always on the ground. She's always on the floor.
Good for her.
She's watching TV and she's just like shoveling popcorn in her face. She's like the cutest little thing. She's just sitting there watching TV. And I'm just like looking at her feet moving all around, and her like big toe is like moving away from her other toes. Her feet are like tangled up like underneath her, and both the heels are like pointed out. I'm like, first of all, I would snap my fucking ankle in half. But as she's watching TV, her little pinky toes are just like moving around, and she's like shifting from one side to the other. I'm just thinking, man, like we need so much of that, and we don't get any of that as an adult. You think about like, think about people like just making contact with the ground, Never mind like outside. No one's ever making any contact with the fucking earth. That's like totally out of the question. But for people just to make contact with the floor even doesn't really happen much. And you think about when you have contact with the floor, whether you're sitting on your butt or you're kind of sitting on like your knees, you get what Kelly Starrett has referred to before as like overpressure. You get this like pressure. Like if I take my forearm and just move it up to my forearm to my bicep, and you just kind of push like on your wrist, you kind of feel this like pressure in the capsule of the elbow. And when you sit down on the ground or you're on your knees in some of those positions like that, you get that overpressure. But it's like, how do we get that pressure? How do you get sensation of that? Because sometimes there's some positions in life where sometimes you end up like that. What if you fall? What if you trip? What if you're in a fight? What if you're doing wrestling? What if you're doing jujitsu? Just playing fucking pickleball, the odds of you getting into these weird compromising positions where your knee is in a weird funky spot could definitely happen. And if you keep moving around, you get yourself on the ground without even doing like exercises on the ground. Just get yourself to sit the fuck down on the ground, watch TV here and there. I think it would be really helpful and really useful and something that's been helping me a lot.
One thing I just realized, and I have a theory on this, what you were mentioning about your niece, how like she's doing things on the ground and her feet are moving in these weird ways. She's still at a young age where like her brain is still connected to what her feet are doing. Because you remember when the first time when some people came, I think Graham came into the gym and he was having us do stuff to move our toes and we didn't have the neurological connection to move our toes in certain ways. Think about that. When your brain isn't connected to your feet, then they don't move. What has been happening as we've been starting to develop our feet? We started hand-foot gloving. We started doing big toe thumbs up. We started smashing our feet on things. Well, I noticed personally that my toes are always doing shit now without me really thinking about it. I'll be sitting at home on the couch chilling with my girl and my toes are fucking doing shit. Why? Because I have a neurological connection to my feet now. And what happens when you start actually having a connection to your feet? What do? You move more.
Yeah, you move more.
You naturally move more. Your NEAT increases. You're not as sedentary because now like the thing on the ground, you have a connection to it. Whereas most people have their feet always stuffed into something. They don't have the ability to move their toes well. Well, that area is not going to move.
Right.
So if you can develop it and get it stronger and get your toes more nimble and create some space between those toes and get the neurological connection to them, your NEAT might just increase. Now, this isn't something I've read anywhere, but like it just clicked. And I think that's legit.
Yeah.
So what you're saying is if you move your toes more, you'll get shredded.
Yeah.
You got it. Okay. You heard it here first.
Over time.
You heard it here first, baby.
Yeah.
Over time, you'll definitely be moving around a little bit more for sure. Yeah. I think for myself, what I've been noticing, I can definitely feel my feet even when I'm running. I can feel each individual toe. I can sometimes even feel like I can like kind of concentrate on like the big toe, and I can be like, hey, let's like push off the ground with the big toe. Even it doesn't matter what sneakers I'm in. I could be in some Nike shoes or whatever. I could be in anything and I'll still feel it. And I can kind of like pull the ground. Like that's what I was kind of concentrating on today is like having my foot strike and pull the ground. If you watch the fastest animals in the world, they pull the ground like crazy, like a cheetah or something like that. They just pull the whole time. So I'm thinking I need to pull a little bit better, pull with my hamstring, pull my heel up a little bit. But what I've noticed is, by wearing the Morpheus app and by checking my heart rate used to go up quite a bit when I would do some jumps. Like I'll jump up on like park benches or just concrete, whatever the fuck. Like sometimes I'll run up stairs. Like there's just stairs when I'm running. So I'll just be like, oh, I'm going to go this way. I'm going to run up these stairs, or I'll hop up the stairs, try to do like some hops and jumps and
someone's house.
Just trying to do like unconventional weird stuff. Just keep moving around, sometimes on one leg, sometimes on two.
Yeah.
And my heart rate used to go up quite a bit, but I don't think it was necessarily from the activity. I think it was from like the anxiety of it, where I'm like, I'm not sure. I would see something and I'm like, I'm going to jump on that. And I'm like, I'm not actually sure. Like I have been, I've been running for like 45 minutes. That's gonna, well, let me just just commit to it. Just go for it and go do it. But now the heart rate's a lot lower.
Yeah.
Because I'm like, well, you did it yesterday. You did it the day before. Like, you're totally fine now. Like, you're going to be able to do it no problem.
Doesn't your heart rate not even get over 150 on a lot of your runs now? Like, you're chilling, right?
It never does.
Shit, that's fucking impressive.
I think it was that this morning or was that yesterday? I think it was this morning. This morning I had a hell of a time getting my heart rate up. I'm like running and I'm like, shit, I need to, that's why I was mentioning to you, I need to work on like running with my heart rate higher a little bit, because I need to like attach the two sides, like I've gotten good at this this lower end heart rate stuff. I need to get a little bit better at this higher end heart rate stuff, and then they'll connect in the middle better. Because this morning I had to go faster, and then I feel it in my legs. Like my legs actually will feel tired, which
like lactic acid buildup.
Yeah, I think so. Which that hasn't really. At first, I was just like fat and out of breath when I first started running, and then my legs would be tired. But my legs haven't been tired in like 2 years. So, like having my legs get tired, I was like, oh shit, like they're getting fatigued.
Also, what's your resting heart rate at night? The shit's
it's in the 40s, yeah.
Right? That's so crazy, dog.
Yeah, and the HRV is like in the 80s.
You're 225 to 230, right? You're a big fuck, and your heart rate chilling is like in the 40s.
Yeah, it's getting low.
Yeah, and fuck, you're 40 something. Like most guys that have been doing what you've been doing, as in like, they powerlifted for a long ass time, they've done that shit. Well, their heart rate is still like 65, resting heart rate.
Right.
It's like you're doing some shit right, dog.
Yep.
This is good.
Yeah, it's feeling good. Everything's feeling good. And it's, huge part of it is just being open-minded towards some of the shit that we...
little fumble, it's okay.
Some of the shit that we've been exploring on the podcast.
Yeah.
All right. Well, you guys, saw us, like we had a lot of demonstrations of some different athletes. You saw like Tyson, Bo Jackson. You saw all these different people. And I just think it's, to me, these athletes... I think are amazing. I think they're highly intelligent. And I think a lot of times maybe some people are dismissed because people just think, oh, they only know that one thing. They only know that. But even within knowing that one thing, there's an understanding of that one thing that goes beyond anything that almost anyone else can articulate and almost any other coach can articulate. And so people like Jordan and Tyson and some of these people, they're a gift, I think, in a way. They're a gift to all of us to be able to listen to them and to have watched them. And to me, it's inspiring. So I think it's cool. Strength is never weakness. Weakness is never strength. Catch you guys later. Bye.
So athletes are smarter than you think. So how about checking out the guy we talked about at the end of this episode, Mr. Mike O'Hearn? We did a 2.5, maybe 3 hour long podcast with him. He goes into detail. Hey, he might piss you off or you might like him, but at the end of the day, he has some information that you're really going to dig. So click the video. Do you hate him? Do you love him? Do you love your mother? Because she doesn't love you.
Oh, God.